You're listening to CBS Sports Radio. We are all sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Strong opinions and your phone calls. Expected here. CBS Sports Radio.
The Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube Live. SEC, ACC, and Big Ten coverage like no other. Subscribe and like us today. Your first choice for sports talk live from the First Coast.
Hey, Jacksonville, winter is the perfect time to start planning for your healthy, pest-free spring lawn with True Green, America's #1 lawn care company. True Green's science-based approach and local expertise will help give your lawn the year-round care it needs to be thick and weed-free. Go to truegreen.com/radio to save 50% on your first service. Just call 866-946-5956 or go to truegreen.com/radio today and get a lawn to be proud of.
Get your Sunday football morning started off right with the Handicappers on Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube, 10 a.m. Eastern to noon Eastern. Your Sunday morning kickoff show where we tackle your NFL lines out in the desert, a 61.2% win rate over the last 6 years. Against the spread, over under, money line, you name it. And we dive into the world of fantasy football year long and your DFS payouts. Your only true Southern football kickoff show that talks the spreads in Vegas, your DFS and fantasy, in your year-long quest to win that fantasy football championship. Only on the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel. It's the Handicappers on Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube, 10 a.m. Eastern to noon Eastern. Sundays, all NFL season long.
At Jewelers Mutual, we're a little obsessed with jewelry. Obsessed like auctioneers with talking fast.
50, we're going to fit so.
Pop stars with auto-tune.
Yeah.
And dentists with asking questions.
So, how did he propose?
After they've put their hands in your mouth.
Great.
Yes, we've made jewelry our obsession for over 100 years. We love it so much, we named our kids Ruby, Amber, and Opal.
Venti soy latte for Opal?
At Jewelers Mutual, we insure jewelry and only jewelry, which is why people who are also obsessed with jewelry trust us with theirs.
Saturday mornings, 8:30 Eastern. Dixie Football Nation is back and better than ever. We've got Tony Agolini, Matt Carr, Tones Ariola, Bobby and Angelo, along with Mac McGee this fall. Dixie Football Nation heads to the gridiron, talking ACC, SEC, the Big Ten, and all the big games throughout the college football land. That's Dixie Football Nation, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central, Saturday mornings on the Armchair Quarterback Show's YouTube channel, going live, or catch the instant replay.
Take the road less traveled in the newly redesigned Hyundai Santa Fe. With available H-Track all-wheel drive to help you get off the beaten path a little further together. And intuitive safety features that can help you see what's waiting around the bend. Plus, with generous room for 5 and comfortable available Napa leather seating, you can go for more drives as a family without driving each other crazy. Find new adventures together in the Hyundai Santa Fe.
I'm Amy Lawrence, and I'm up late, always, after hours, hanging out with you on CBS Sports Radio. Check it out, 2 a.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. Pacific.
Did you know that it is more eco-friendly and environmentally safe to pee in the sink as opposed to the toilet?
Don't pee in my sink.
Anyway, on
any of them. Bathroom, kitchen, none of them. Please do not pee in the sink.
On an unrelated note, you might want to replace your toothbrush.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on CBS Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Good morning, and this is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. Here are your lines from the desert as we hit the weekend. The action gets rolling on Saturday in the top 25 at noon Eastern. Charleston Southern is at the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia #1 in the land. Currently, there is no line on that game at noon Eastern on ABC. It's the big one. The Michigan State Spartans getting 19 points on the road at Ohio State. The over-under is 65.5. Wake Forest, the number 10 team in the country, they travel to Clemson, South Carolina. Clemson is a 4.5-point favorite. The over-under sits at 56.5. Iowa State at Oklahoma. The Sooners, 3.5-point favorites. The line is 59.5. The Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets travel to South Bend to take on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. The Irish are 17-point favorites. 58.5 is the number. And the number 21 Arkansas Razorbacks, Woo Pig Suey, they'll be getting 20.5 points. The over-under is 58.5. Arkansas will try to knock off the number 2 team in the land. Number 6 Michigan, they're a 15-point favorite at Maryland. That game's at 3:30 on the Big Ten Network. 3:30 Eastern on ESPN2. Number 18 Pittsburgh in line to play in the ACC championship game. They host Virginia. The Panthers are 14.5-point favorites. 66 is the number. Number 16 A&M hosts 7-2 Prairie View A&M. An FCS school. There is no line. That game kicks off at noon Eastern on ESPN and the SEC Network Plus. Also at noon Eastern, Tennessee State Tigers are at the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Currently, there's no line on that game. The Bulldogs are 25th in the country. At 2 o'clock Eastern, Illinois, 12.5-point dogs on the road at Iowa. The over-under is 38.5. SMU is an 11.5-point underdog at Cincinnati. The over-under sits at 65. Nebraska, 9-point underdogs at Wisconsin. That game's at 3:30 on ABC. BYU is a 20-point favorite on the road to Georgia Southern. 57.5 is the over-under. And the NC State Wolfpack, 11.5-point favorites at home against Syracuse, while Baylor, 5:30 Eastern on FS1, they're a 1-point favorite at Kansas State. And the Oregon Ducks, number 3 in the country, travel to the number 23 Utah Utes. Utah is a 3-point favorite. The over-under is 59. Vanderbilt getting 36.5 on the road at Ole Miss, number 12 in the country. 64.5 is the over-under. And the number 9 Oklahoma State Cowboys, they are a 10-point favorite at Texas Tech. 8 o'clock Eastern on Fox. Other games of interest around the country, the Florida State Seminoles, they're a 1.5-point to 2-point underdogs at Boston College. Noon on the ACC Network. 54.5 is the over-under. Virginia Tech is getting 7.5 at Miami. The over-under is 56. That game's at 7:30 on the ACC Network. Over in the SEC, Kentucky is a 36-point favorite at home against New Mexico State. The line is 60. The Gators, 8.5-point favorites at Missouri. The line is 69. In Auburn, they are a 7.5-point favorite on the road in South Carolina. That game's at 7 o'clock on ESPN. The Tennessee Volunteers, 7:30 Eastern on ESPNU. They host South Alabama and are 28-point favorites. The line is 62. And the LSU Tigers, 9 o'clock Eastern, ESPN2. They host University Louisiana Monroe. 29-point favorites are the Tigers. 57.5 is the over-under. Your Sunday morning in the National Football League looks like this. At 1 o'clock Eastern, Colts and Bills. Buffalo is a 7-point favorite at home. The over-under is 50. Ravens are at the Bears. Baltimore is a 4.5-point favorite. 44.5 is the over-under. Lions and Browns. Cleveland is 11.5-point favorite at home against Detroit. 43.5 is the over-under. The Titans host the Texans. 10.5-point favorites Over-under sits at 44.5. Packers are a 1-point favorite in Minnesota. Over-under is 47.5. And the Dolphins are a 3-point favorite in New York against the Jets. Joe Flacco taking the opening snaps. Miami, the 3-point favorite. The over-under sits at 44.5. Saints and Eagles. Philly is a 2-point favorite at home. Over-under sits at 43. And the Washington football team, they're a 3.5-point favorite at Carolina. The over-under sits at 43. 49ers, 6.5-point favorites at the Jaguars. The over-under is 45. 4 o'clock Eastern, Bengals are at the Raiders. 1-point favorite is Cincinnati in Las Vegas. The over-under sits at 50.5. And the Cowboys and Chiefs, Kansas City's a 2.5-point favorite at home against Dallas. Over-under sits at 56. Cardinals and Seahawks, Arizona 2.5-point favorite on the road in Seattle. The over-under sits at 48. In your Sunday night football game of the week, the Steelers are at the Chargers. Pittsburgh getting 6. Over-under sits at 47. Monday Night Football has the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, just an 11-point favorite at home against the Giants. 49.5 is the number. And that's your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. Stay tuned for the Armchair Quarterbacks radio show and YouTube Live. Please like, subscribe, and share our show today. The Armchair Quarterbacks, your first choice for sports talk, live from the First Coast.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. In the meantime, we take you to the Hotel Martinet in Brooklyn, where Bobby Millett and his orchestra are offering a program of dance music.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the ground.
Good morning. Welcome to a little Take Me Out to the Ball Game as we get you started up here on the Armchair Quarterbacks Wake Up Y'all show. Just going to dive into some stuff we probably don't have a chance to get into because we only do this for an hour now with Justin and Joey on the way. So want to make sure we get you all caught up in the world of sports. Also, remember, we're going to be dropping the sports page later on this morning. Usually drops around lunchtime, somewhere around 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern is when I try to drop it. We'll get more consistent. Right now I'm going through a transition, training at a new job, and I'm just trying to figure out what my typical schedule will be. So once I get that figured out, we'll have that at a more consistent drop time. But as of right now, it's going to be somewhere between 10 and 11 a.m. Eastern. All right. Let's go ahead and get into some of the bigger topics at hand. First of all, real quick, and I'm going to get into this later in the sports page because we basically are doing Major League Baseball on Fridays on the sports page. So I'll get into the awards, but I do want to lay out there that Ohtani and Bryce Harper won the MVPs for the American League and National League. I'll give my thoughts on that later on the sports page. Trust me, you don't want to miss that. But they did win, and if you missed it earlier in the week, the Cy Young Awards were Robbie Ray of the Toronto Blue Jays, well-deserved, and Corbin Burns. That was the controversial one. Should have been Max Scherzer. Should it have been Zach Wheeler? So there you have that, and those are your major awards in Major League Baseball. Now here's a funny story that I have to hit this with first. Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver, I swear, it never ends with this guy. I mean, it absolutely never ends with this guy. Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver Antonio Brown has been accused of obtaining a fake COVID-19 vaccination card, according to the Tampa Bay Times. The Times reported Thursday that according to Steven Ruiz, a former personal chef for the wide receiver, Brown, had his girlfriend, model Sydney Moreau, I think is how it's pronounced, reach out to Ruiz over the summer to obtain a fake vaccination card that said Brown had received the Johnson & Johnson one-time shot. And according to text messages provided by Ruiz, Moreau offered $500 for the fake card. Ruiz was unable to acquire the fake card for Brown, according to the report, but he added that the wide receiver a few weeks later showed him ones that he had himself and Moreau had purchased. So Brown reportedly was unwilling to get the vaccine because of the possible side effects, and so he obtained a fake vaccine card, is what he's being accused of. And we'll see what happens from here. But all vaccination cards, this is a quote, all vaccination cards were reviewed by the Buccaneers personnel and no irregularities were observed. Unquote. That was a statement put out by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we'll see what happens here. Nothing would shock me anymore, but it looks like AB is up to his old tricks. Rob Manfred comes out and says that a lockout could move MLB talks forward. Yeah, this guy is the worst, the absolute worst on the planet on knowing how and how not to address things in the media. To even talk about a lockout and talking about how that is beneficial moving things forward, he once again gets wrapped up in the lawyer side of himself and forgets that he is the commissioner of Major League Baseball. You are supposed to be keeping this peace for both sides, and you're supposed to keep the fan interest in there. He's going to screw around and get his ass fired. Mark my words. Here's another big story coming out of Washington. President Joe Biden said Thursday that the U.S. was considering a diplomatic boycott of next year's Winter Olympics in Beijing over China's human rights abuses. A move that would keep American dignitaries but not athletes from the game. So it's not really a boycott. When you see the headline, you see considering boycott, and then you dig in and you go, oh, it's the diplomatic side of it. So they're not really making a stand while trying to make a stand. So essentially it's much to do about nothing because the athletes will not be affected. And really that's all anyone cares about is the athletes because they're the ones that work their ass off for their entire lives to get to that point. I have mixed feelings on that because I definitely believe that they are being mistreated, but then you have to look at it from the athlete side of it who go out there and work their entire lives and get stuck in the middle of a political game. So we'll leave that alone, but we will keep an eye on that as that moves forward. The NFL continues to defend their terrible decision to throw the flag a couple of Monday nights ago on the Chicago Bear linebacker for taunting, and they came out with a statement that basically says, turn away, don't risk the penalty, blah, blah, blah. But if you go back to that video, and everyone has seen it, I don't even have to put it up there. If you go back to that video, the umpire that throws the flag hip checked the guy. So what is he doing? Why is he not getting reprimanded? The way it looked to me, that ump shouldn't be in the NFL for the rest of the season, bare minimum. So we'll keep an eye on that, but the NFL is trying to defend a very stupid rule, essentially. You cannot sit there and get all bent out of shape about a team or a player taunting when you allow the group celebrations. Every time there's a freaking turnover in the NFL, we have to watch a bunch of dopes run to the screen in the back of the end zone and do like a Madonna strike a pose thing there where they're standing there. It's the dopiest thing, and I still have not figured out why it's there. Because no one at home sees that. All they see is them going towards that camera. Have the players not figured this out? Have they not figured this out? Now maybe those pictures are being put up in the stadium, but even then, it's dopey. It's very Bush League. But you allow that, but you don't allow other things. Just pick a side of the street. If you're going to be cracking down on that kind of stuff, okay. But then don't allow the other goofy stuff that's not needed. And the other big story, I'm going to kind of wait for the other guys to join here. We're basically planning on leading off the show with this. Mel Tucker could be in line. The reports are saying 10-year, $95 million deal to stay at Michigan State. Or as an extension. That is $20 million more than Jimbo Fisher got to jump ship, leaving Florida State to LSU just, 3-4 years ago? Tucker has not won a national championship. He's done nothing. He was 2-5 last year, and then this year he's 9-1, but I think I would wait to see what his team does against Ohio State on Saturday before I start shucking out $95 million. Now, most of it's coming from the boosters, and I get that. They can do whatever they want. Buyer beware. Tucker's entire resume as a head coach is 16-13 lifetime. He hasn't been doing it very long. He's had a good season this year. You're not taking that away from him. But you're going to lock him up to go where? He's not leaving. And if he was thinking about leaving, it's not going to take 95 to keep him there. What happens if he lays an egg the next 2 years and you got to swallow all that money? Really, really strange story, but... And I'm not even hating on Mel Tucker. I like him. He seems like a good coach. But he doesn't have the resume to back that up. If you told me that all of a sudden Michigan fans went nuts and put it up against Harbaugh, they didn't want him to leave because he was thinking about going to the NFL or something to that extent, I'd say, okay, I kind of get it. It kind of makes sense. You know, I don't really think you have to pay him that much. But Tucker's been there just over a year and a half. And didn't do anything when he was out at Colorado State. And they are just desperately trying to... You know what this is? This is the ugly dude that's dating the girl that he thinks is better looking than what she is. And after 2 dates, he's on bended knee because he's afraid he's going to lose her. And she's like, yeah, whatever, screw it, I'm in. I'm not getting any offers anywhere else. Why not? Michigan State is the ugly dude. They're worried about him bolting to go somewhere else. Maybe they're thinking the LSU job. Maybe they're thinking the Southern Cal job. I don't think that Mel Tucker is on either one of those two teams' radar. I think a 10-year deal worth about half that would keep him locked up. But anyways, we move on from that. And we get ready for the big show here in 1 second. Tony will not be with us today. I think I forgot to mention it. Was his birthday yesterday, and then, of course, dealing with the newborn and everything. He is going to try to stop in on Saturday. I do expect him to be back next week. Florida State-Florida rivalry weekend, all that kind of stuff. That's going to be a little difficult to navigate. Of course, it is Thanksgiving, so I'll see what the guys are up to. We may not be doing a show on Friday, but we'll definitely be doing a show that Saturday. I'll have to see what everyone is, what their schedule's like. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and get ready for the wake up show as Joey and Justin are about to join on.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd.
So this was a picture of 3 Eagles fans at the Denver Broncos game this past weekend. All I gotta say is find me a funnier set of 3 jerseys back to back to back like this. I doubt you can.
If a black person ever calls you cracker, just let them say it. You can say things they can't say either, like, thanks for the warning, officer.
Armchair.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and flat out deceived.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
But what the hell, boy?
Make sure to listen to the Armchair Quarterbacks. Good enough for us down here in the bayou. Go Tigers and the Armchair Quarterbacks.
Good morning.
Armchair.
YouTube Live.
CBS Sports
Radio Station. The radio station you can call your own. Do you know what listeners like about our station? It's everything.
I like everything. It's always on my radio.
We never stop the music, except for now, when I talk.
Good morning. It's time to wake up, y'all. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterback Show. We're here weekdays on CBS Radio, YouTube Live, the Armchair Quarterback Show, your first choice for Southern Sports Talk. Good morning, Mr. Justin Waller.
Good morning. I don't know much, but I know one thing. I wasn't here last week, and I want to give my belated love to all of our veterans out there. Thank you for each and every one of you, the men and women that have paid the sacrifice to serve this great country. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mac McGinn. I don't know much, but I know one thing. We are just 2 weeks away from the college football championships for the Big Ten, the SEC, all of that. Next weekend's rivalry weekend. This weekend is big old bag of suck it. A bunch of games that nobody cares about. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks.
Armchair.
Community Access Channel.
He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. The all-American man.
Howdy, hi, top of the morning to you. Welcome to the Armchair Quarterback Radio Show. I am Mac McGee alongside Justin Waller and Joey. Joey, how are you this morning, sir?
I'm doing great this morning. As you said, the slate isn't the best of all the cases this morning for the weekend college, especially outside of Michigan State, Ohio State. But hey, we got a lot of football to talk about. We're getting close to the playoffs, and it's going to be, we're getting to the nitty gritty. Teams got to put their things on. If Cincinnati, teams like that want to make the playoffs, big run starts now.
I didn't really think about it until I started doing the sports flash last night. I was like, it's like the longest sports flash I've ever done. It's because none of the ranked teams are playing each other. So I'm having to mention every single of the 25 teams that are ranked, they're playing someone else. I believe the Michigan State Ohio State game is the only big tilt. Oregon does play Utah. And so that's a game that's going to go under everyone's radar because no one's really paying attention to that per se, because it's Oregon, but they are an underdog in that game. So we'll see what happens. Justin, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thankfully, got my video difficulties. Tried to get me with the update. You're not doing it to me this morning, Zoom. I've learned that lesson. Do not update before show. So sorry for the technical difficulties. I've made it work and I'm back.
Well, welcome, sir. Let's go ahead and dive into the first thing at hand. And I want to get y'all's college football top four before we move on to other subjects. Right now, they have it as Georgia 1, Bama 2, Oregon 3, and Ohio State 4. Cincinnati is 5. Michigan, I believe, is 6th, and Michigan State is 7th. I might have the in reverse order. It might be Michigan seventh, and it might be Michigan over Michigan State or Michigan State over Michigan. It doesn't realistically matter at this point. But Joey, I'll start with you. What is your college football top four?
Yeah, so my top four isn't too far off of what they have right now, just a couple of changes within those four teams. I have Georgia number one, obviously, best team in the country until, somebody stops them. I won't say otherwise. Ohio State number two. Again, I know a lot of people say, well, they lost to Oregon with the one loss. I just think Ohio State's playing better football right now and fully has it together. I think they're the second most complete team. I have Oregon number three right now. But that, like you said, that Utah game, that could change it all as they're not favorites in that game. So a loss there could easily knock them out. And then number four, I kept going back and forth between Alabama and Cincy. But one of these two teams are going to knock themselves out too. Bama is going to have to play a tough SEC championship, and Cincy has a tough game against SMU. So I have Bama 4 right now. So my top four, once again, Georgia number 1, Ohio State 2, Oregon 3, Bama 4, and Cincy is a close 5 for me.
So I'm going to give you a pass because you're in Big Ten country and you drink their Kool-Aid. But why is Ohio State ranked over the team that beat them?
Well, hey, we know the committee always doesn't look at head-to-head, unfortunately. When Michigan State played Michigan after that game later in the week, the next week, they ended up ranking Michigan ahead of Michigan State. And to me, sometimes it's the way you're playing later in the season. That was week 1. That was C.J. Stroud's first start. He was not known as well into the offense yet. Ohio State was just catching their bearings. I feel like now they're on all cylinders, firing off, getting big wins in the Big Ten. And I think they'll continue that. If they beat Michigan State, if they beat Michigan, win the Big Ten championship, even if them and Ohio State, Oregon have one loss, I have a hard time moving Ohio State out of number 2, as I think they're the second most complete team in the country going into the dance.
Let me ask you this, and I don't believe it's going to fall that way. But if it came down to it, well, let's say you put Georgia, Alabama, and we'll just say Cincinnati in the playoffs, and you had to choose between Oregon and Ohio State, who lost to Oregon, you're saying that you would put Ohio State in? And
I know that sounds crazy, but I think Ohio State's the more complete team and playing the better football right now. And C.J. Stroud has come a long way since his first game in college.
But he lost to the team that you're putting below him.
Unfortunately, yes, that would be my decision.
That's a weak argument, my friend. All right, Justin.
No, it's not weak. They're the better team. Hey, you know what? We're here to argue.
Hey, I digress. Let's keep this going. Tell me more, Joey.
Go ahead, Justin.
Notre Dame, Florida State,
this
and Tennessee
is the
are my
Alabama
top 3.
disease right all over again. Alabama can have 4 freaking losses, Justin, and they still want to put them in the playoffs because they're saying, well, they're playing the best football right now. What the hell happened during the other weeks? I don't want to hear about they're playing the best football right now. I want to know who played the best football the entire season. All right, Justin, your turn.
That's gonna be hard to follow, man.
Vanderbilt number 1, because even though they've looked bad, I went to practice the other day. They look phenomenal.
I know that their competition their competition in the East and West that they play in the SEC is more difficult than the Big Ten and the Pac-12 combined. So, yeah, we'll go Vanderbilt, Missouri, South Carolina, who could be bowl eligible against Auburn this weekend. Seriously, I'm going to go Georgia. Again, I can't argue that one. This is difficult because there's so many hypotheticals. I think Alabama, they're going to battle each other at the end, so I think they take care of each other. But today, if we're talking, it's Georgia, Alabama. I'm going to put Oregon number 3, and then I'm going to put right now – I'm leaning Michigan State. I could go Ohio State. It solves itself Saturday morning. So that's where I stand now. I'd put Michigan State there over Ohio State, unless Ohio State wins. And then, yes, I would put them at 4.
So I see that Tones is watching. So I'm going to put this to you, Joey. Patriots look pretty good recently, don't they?
Oh, the Patriots don't only look good; they just keep getting better. Yeah,
man, they've won 6 of their last 7.
And
so I think if you're doing an NFL ranking, you've got to put them over the Buccaneers right now.
Hey, oh yeah, you know what, New England?
That's the same philosophy, because the Buccaneers beat the Patriots earlier in the season, but now all of a sudden they've rattled off wins against Atlanta and the Jets, and man, they're looking good. So they're obviously a better team than the Buccaneers. That's what you're telling me when you're telling me that Oregon is below Ohio State, which, by the way, I think Oregon might lose this weekend. This is all a moot point, but I'm just talking about the philosophy.
Hey, going into this week, New England has more wins, so it is what it is.
So
my brother's going to kill me at the end.
I was about to say, you might want to watch your back.
I got a window in front of me, luckily.
My top four. I've got to go Georgia number one. Obvious, they're by far the best team in the country. Oregon number two, Ohio State 3, and Bama 4. And the only reason why I have it set up that way is because Georgia's going to play Alabama. And if Georgia beats Alabama, they're going to knock them out of the top 4. So then that's when I have Cincinnati. Then I've got Michigan State over Michigan. Michigan State beat Michigan. But that could all be a moot point because if Michigan State goes out and gets beat this weekend, they're done. If Michigan State goes out and pulls off the unthinkable upset, Ohio State's done, and Michigan State, unfortunately, Cincinnati fans are going to leapfrog you again. Cincinnati can't find a way in, can they, Justin?
This might be the year. The craziness could happen. I mean, I fully anticipate Michigan State to give Ohio State a game, and I agree with you that I think Utah at home, that defense is going to give Oregon a run for its money. So they could hypothetically both be out, and honestly, I think the SEC championship, I don't think you beat Nick Saban twice in 1 year. I don't. I think that's what it would take for Georgia to do that. So they're going to have to beat them in the SEC championship. I don't think they do. I think Nick Saban gets that one, and then I say you possibly line up for another rematch. I mean, this seems like deja vu, which I don't want to go down this path because we've seen this before. But honestly, I think that's what we're lining up for is another Georgia-Alabama.
But if Georgia beats Alabama,
then it's all a mute point. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Nick Saban
Georgia's going to thump them.
I hope you're right. I will definitely be a Bulldog on that Saturday. I will be a Bulldog.
I think Alabama's a fraud. And not that they're not a good football team. They're not a top 4 team. We've seen them struggle all year long. And just because they went out and blew out, what was it, New Mexico State, Polytech, or whatever the heck that was it they beat last weekend. They have struggled at Florida, which Florida is obviously not a very good football team. They have struggled all the way down the stretch. They've pulled out some games that they could have easily lost. The LSU game. I think Georgia is just, man, that defense is elite. And when I say elite, I mean all-time elite. If that defense continues to put up the numbers that they have put up over the last several weeks, we're going to be talking about the Georgia Bulldog 2021 defense as one of the greatest of all time. And if that happens, that is the only route for Cincinnati to get in, maybe, because you're going to get a Big Ten team in. We know that. You're going to get an SEC team in. We know that. If Oregon gets knocked off, that might slide Cincinnati into the top 4. And I think their best chance to get knocked off is this weekend as opposed to the Pac-12 championship. And then as far as the SEC goes, they could get 2 in, but one of them would have to be a 1-loss Alabama team and a 1-loss Georgia team. Alabama loses 2, they're done. The big question would be this. Let me throw this scenario at y'all. What if Georgia beats Alabama, and we'll just to make it simple and clean, we'll say that Ohio State goes on and wins their last 2 games. Or even we'll just say that, you know what, to really throw a monkey wrench into it, we'll say that Michigan State squeaks out a win against Ohio State and Ohio State beats Michigan, right? And Cincinnati gets in. Michigan State gets in. Georgia gets in. Who's the 4th team? Who do you go to? Do you go to another Big Ten team? Do you put Alabama with 2 losses in there? Who is the 4th team?
It can't be my beloved Notre Dame, right? It can't be. Or could it? Even though I don't want them in there because I know their struggles, and they don't deserve it probably. But
would you not put in a one-loss team in there before you put a 2-loss team in there?
I think, I have to, right? Yeah. I know they put Notre Dame. I know Alabama.
I don't know. I mean, are we determining Pac-12 conference schedule versus SEC or Big Ten schedule or Big 12? I mean, how are you deciding that? What's the criteria?
This is under the assumption that Oregon has lost and they're done, right?
Okay.
And so
they have 2 losses. Ohio State has 2 losses.
Pac-12 doesn't get a team. You've already put an SEC, a Big Ten, and Cincinnati in. Who gets that 4th spot? Is it Notre Dame? I mean, could Wake Forest run the table together? I don't think so. I don't think Wake Forest is going to be. And it's not their fault, but Wake Forest doesn't have a complete schedule, a schedule that looks imposing because of the down years from Clemson and Florida State.
Right.
So it's not necessarily their fault, but they're going to get – if Wake Forest would have gone undefeated, they would have an argument. I don't think they're going to let them in just because of the bias against the ACC, because the presumption is that the ACC is so down they don't deserve a team in. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily true because Wake Forest has looked pretty good. I know Jess has watched a lot of Wake Forest games. In fact, what was it, 2-3 years ago when you – predicted them to go like 6-0 or something like that, and they got out to that start. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think Wake Forest has a shot in hell of beating Georgia because that defense is going to shut them down, and then Wake Forest is just a sieve when it comes to defensive football. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's Notre Dame.
It's Notre Dame or Oklahoma State. It's got to be one of the two on who runs the table out. I don't have their schedules in front of me as to who's had the tougher out. Well, I mean, I guess Notre Dame has the tougher out of conference since you guys technically don't have a conference. But I don't have that in front of me, but it has to be between them two.
And Oklahoma State would have the advantage of they're about to play Oklahoma next weekend in Bedlam, right? So assuming Oklahoma beats Iowa State, that's a 1-loss Oklahoma team. And then I think they would play Oklahoma again in the Big 12 championship. I think that's how it would match up. So if they beat Oklahoma twice, is that impressive, or is that, well, you just beat the same team twice? I don't know. It's an absolute mess.
I think it's more impressive and gives them a better chance if they win twice versus Oklahoma winning that, and then you have a split because Oklahoma's loss was not near as impressive. I don't know that there's impressive losses.
Is the consensus that you would put a 1-loss Notre Dame team in, or possibly Oklahoma State? Well, let's just eliminate Oklahoma State for a second. We'll just say it's Notre Dame. Would you put a 1-loss Notre Dame team in over a 2-loss Ohio State or Alabama team?
Yes.
Okay. I agree with that. I just wonder where everyone's head is, because I'm going to hear someone.
We count W's for a reason.
Well, some people do, but some people like Joey will tell you, oh, well, I'll tell you what, man, I went out to practice last week and they look phenomenal. I know they lost by 17 last Saturday, but you weren't there on Tuesday. you weren't there during the walkthroughs. You don't know what goes on out there.
Hey, you got to put the work in, boys. You got to put it work in. And if Joey's doing it, then, I'm going to agree with him today, but I'm not putting my money with it.
Joey, I saw something last night, a commercial that I did not know was going on, or maybe I saw it before and just didn't pay attention to it. They're doing an in-season Hard Knocks with the Colts. Have you watched any of this?
Yeah, I actually watched episode 1 yesterday, and obviously it's the first time they've done the in-season. And it's kind of cool to me because they started so bad and they're winning now. So that, helps things become a little bit easier. And there's more action. You're not just getting the training camp guys and people getting cut. You're getting in the faces of Darius Leonard's family, Carson Wentz's family. I've enjoyed it. I've never been a huge
shocked that I'm shocked that any NFL team agreed to it in season. It seems like it would be a distraction. Now, if it was a team like the Jaguars, which knew they were going nowhere beginning of the season, okay, I can see that. But I'm just shocked that you would say, yeah, come on in, bring in the cameras. Why not? What the hell is
Jim Irsay? That has him written all over it. He loves a camera on him. that owner, yeah, he for a few reasons. He loves the movie Scarface. He's a big Al Pacino fan.
He normally has the wrong kinds of cameras on him, like PMZ,
body cams.
They must have called him at last call saying, "Hey, we got an idea for you. You want to come here and film your football team?" Yes, correct. Whatever.
Hey, NFL Films had one heck of a salesperson. They knew when and where to close that deal.
Exactly.
10 o'clock on a Friday night.
Yeah, exactly.
That might have been a little early, but yeah, y'all are. Yeah. That was Pacific time.
Well, Jim Irsay's a millionaire. He probably starts drinking at like 11 a.m. You know, so they're like, you know what? We got to catch him in that sweet spot before he passes out.
But do his feet hit the ground first, or does a drink go in the system first?
Like a beer cap.
They were probably this far away from convincing him to sign Cam Newton when Carolina pulled the wool out from under them.
I'm back.
Oh God. Here we go.
Don't get me started, Mac. Don't get me started.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie. I contemplated if he didn't want to throw the football, that why not try him in the backfield? I'm sure Vrabel called him. Don't think it wasn't a question that ran through Titans Nation's mind.
Oh, let's go ahead and get to the pick.
That's enough of that.
So let's go ahead and dive into some college football picks. Justin, what is your first lock of the day or of the week? Excuse me.
I'm going to take Michigan State plus 18.5.
Michigan State plus 18.5. By the way, it looks like there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 college football games tonight. None of them are that exciting, but you do have Memphis at Houston, which could be a close game. Air Force, Nevada, but that comes on pretty late. 5 college football games on a Friday night.
Yeah, we got an 11:30 start too in San Diego State. Wow.
Where was this earlier in the year? Look, I don't understand this, why they don't put more college football games on Friday night, especially the West Coast teams, because nobody watches the West Coast teams. Justin and I have talked about this at nauseum, but nobody watches the West Coast teams on Saturday because you're engulfed into all of your, the teams that matter, right? Everyone that plays the east of the Mississippi. If they would do more of a Pac-12, one game tonight is a Pac-12 game. It's Arizona, Washington State. That's like the worst matchup they could find. But if they would do more of this, I think the Pac-12 could own Friday nights.
Absolutely. I mean, you've discussed it this season, especially with the betting platforms being launched in the past few years here in the mid-state Tennessee area. So it has really drawn a huge market to the Pac-12 after. So you have to wonder with their new commissioner and his ties to, I believe it was MGM he came out of. I know he comes from the betting world, or he came from that world. So you have to hope that there's a ploy to maybe move that. Hopefully he sees that opportunity, because you've got an entire East Coast market that completely misses their product. And I think it would be a lot better. And we've talked about it even when as far as, if the NFL is not going to change Thursday night football, which I think they've done a lot better with this season, completely different rant to go on. But we've talked about it should just be your primetime weeknight matchups. Get it in the eyes of the viewers and let them see your product.
And the Pac-12 championship is played on Friday night. It'll be in 2 Friday nights from now. It'll be the Pac-12 championship. So why not lean into that, right? I would be much more likely to watch Utah versus Oregon tonight if that was the Friday night game, right? And I'm talking about put all your games on Friday night in the Pac-12.
I agree.
All of them. Play an entire slate. Get the entire country on board with what is going on in the Pac-12 tonight, and then just punt on Saturday. You're not getting a lot of fans in the stadium anyways, and there's no reason why they can't come on Friday night, then come on Saturday. I say do it, man. Just lean into it. At least give us one good solid matchup that at the beginning of the year is going to be a meaningful game every Friday night. At least give us one in the Pac-12. You're going to need 2 or 3, because as long as certain folks are in power, you never know if you're going to get a game shut down. But anyways, moving on from that, Joey, what is your lock of the week in college football?
My lock of the week in college football, I'm going to stay in the Big Ten, is Justin did and go to Iowa, minus 12.5. Illinois is not a very good team. They're, they've had a couple of big wins on the road, one being Penn State, but I think Iowa's going to keep it rolling, find themselves in a pretty good bowl game. And it might be close at halftime, but at the end of the day, I think they win by 3 scores plus. So I'll take Iowa minus 12.5 at home.
I'm going to take Wake Forest plus 4.5 at Clemson. Clemson can't score. And even on that Wake Forest defense, I think they're going to have a hard time moving the ball. Wake Forest can run it up and down the field. Now, Clemson's defense is much better than most of the defenses Wake Forest has played against this year, but I think Wake will score enough to at least cover it, if not win the game outright. Justin, what other games are you liking?
Well, I really wanted this one to be my last one, but I'm afraid you might steal it. So I'm taking the Thunder because I want to get my jab in. And I'm going to take Missouri plus 8.5. Florida's on the road. It's a place they struggle. It's in November. And there's a lot of questions swirling around Florida right now. So how do they respond? How do they go out? And woo.
By the way, did you catch any of the reactions to the Florida media after Dan Mullen's interview or press conference after they squeaked by Samford? And he was all happy and joyful and said, that's a good football team. And the entire media is going, is this win not a little disappointing, blah, blah, blah. And he gave all the coach speak. The feedback on that has been terrible in a Gator
Just
Day.
To clarify, that's Samford, Samford, not Stanford.
Right, exactly.
I just wanted to clarify that was not Stanford.
That's the one that Bobby Bowden originally played football at before he played it for Bear Bryant. But it's a small college in Alabama. They shouldn't be hanging 42 on you at the half. Is the point? And yeah, they fired Grantham, and there's going to be a change there. And I think the only reason why that happened was because Mullen read the writing on the wall and realized he better do something, or he's going to get canned. But man, I'm with you on that Missouri game. I'll leave it alone because you took it. But Missouri's not a great team. In fact, they're a really bad team. But Florida's playing terrible. They're playing.
And it's just traditionally, and I mean,
they always
I'm
play
sure
bad Missouri.
Florida or. Oh man, mine just went blank. Tony would have definitely alluded to it this morning. Historically, they struggle there. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, but that's always been a tough game when they travel out there.
When you play in Missouri in November and you're some boys from Florida, it's a little nippy up there normally. And I think that's got something to do with it. Other thing, it has something to do with the fact there's like 6 people in the stands, right? So you're kind of sleepwalking as it is. And isn't it an early kickoff too?
I'm not familiar at the time. I did not have that.
I'll find it in a second. I thought it was an early kickoff, but I may be wrong on that. But anyways, Joey,
3 p.m.
3 p.m. Okay. So 4 o'clock Eastern. All right. So by the end of the ball game, it's going to be dark outside. So, which means it'll be cold, I would think, unless there's some kind of warm front coming.
Or curfew.
Yeah, or curfew, which could affect the Florida Gator program always. Joey, what is your pick?
Yeah, my pick, again, I'm saying with the Big Ten, Wisconsin's hot right now. I'm going to take them -9 home against Nebraska. Nebraska's just been a big mess this year. They haven't gotten things together. Frost tried to get rid of all the coaches when really I think it's all his fault. I think they got a lot going on. So Wisconsin covers at home -9 against Nebraska.
I'm taking Florida State +2 on the road to Boston College. As long as Jordan Travis is playing, they've got a chance. And to be underdogs to Boston College, it's a little bit of a head scratcher, but I get it. FSU with the losing record right now, but they looked impressive against Miami. And I also believe that it being an early kickoff actually helps Florida State, because a late kickoff, it was like 7 o'clock and cold in Boston. I'd be like, I don't have anything to do with this. The Seminole team knows this too. They've got Florida next week and they could be looking ahead. So it is a tricky pick, but if they win tomorrow, that makes the Florida game mean even more, because it means they could get into a bowl game. Justin, what is your last pick?
I'm going to go with, I alluded to it earlier, I'm going to take Oregon on the road +3. I don't know that they win that game. I think it's a close, and Utah might squeak it out, but I'll take the 3 points in Oregon on the road.
All right, we're coming up on time. So what is your walk-off? And then, Joey, we'll do our picks on the other side of the break.
I just everyone have a safe weekend. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope everyone has safe travels and enjoys your time with your loved ones. Be safe, and Armchair Quarterbacks will be back afterwards.
I'm assuming that we'll talk about it on the other side of the break, but Justin, give me a text and let me know if you're wanting to do a show next Friday. Okay.
I'll get with you.
Because it is the day after Thanksgiving. So we'll be back in a flash, and we'll have that information to y'all here in just a moment. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks here on CBS Sports Radio, and Joey and I will be back here to finish those picks, and our NFL picks are on the way. Keep it locked in here to CBS Sports Radio.
So imagine how much I'm actually making to play. You know what I'm saying? No, I got to get my money. I'm not playing unless I get mine. It's not worth it. It's not.
For the first time in 39 years, the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
Eight more with 28.8 seconds left. The Leafs have tied the game.
McCarty draws. McCarty in. McCarty scores! A magnificent goal! Darren McCarty!
Armchair Quarterbacks Radio, covering the NHL like no other.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on CBS Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
I can't file. I can't type. I don't take dictation. I won't sharpen pencils. My boss calls me indispensable.
Miss Jones,
Just a minute.
will you make a copy of this?
Naturally. I push the button on the Xerox 914. I make perfect copies of whatever my boss needs by just turning a knob and pushing a button. Anything he can see, I can copy in black and white on ordinary paper. And am I fast? I can make 7 copies a minute. Sometimes my boss asks me which is the original, and sometimes I don't know.
You're riding Morning Shotgun with the Armchair Quarterbacks. We're here weekdays, your first choice for sports talk here on the First Coast.
What's going on here, guys? All right, Coach. So basically, it was a holding call. But these dudes started me in their fantasy league, which is cool because this dude started our quarterback, but he started our kicker, and I started their defense. So it's kind of a pickle.
Compromising the integrity of this game with your fantasy football leagues? Listen to me. If there was holding, you make that holding call. I don't care if it was on our team or not. I care about this game too much to let you.
Coach, you started their defense too, didn't you? Yeah, you definitely started their defense.
Damn right I did.
Armchair. If only the world was less like this.
I could use a smoke.
Hey, put that out!
And more like this.
I could use a smoke.
You murderer! I might have children one day!
Smoking kills, unless you kill first. If you're around a smoker, you will die. Smokers may look relaxed and like they're having fun. Don't believe it. Vote yes on Proposition 421. Let's outlaw smoking everywhere, even in people's homes, and allow honest citizens to legally kill anyone who smokes. Let's live in a world without smokers. Prohibition works. Let's prove it. Vote yes on Proposition 421. Armchair.
Why are you the way that you are? I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
Shout out Matt Carr. Oh, man. Good Friday, man.
We hope to have Matt back sometime soon. He's got a lot of stuff going on in his life, and that's the short of it. So we wish him well. Everything's okay. He's got a lot on his plate here recently. So let me ask you. So going over the college picks really quick, Justin took Michigan State plus 18.5. He took Missouri plus 8.5 and Oregon plus 3. I've got Wake Forest plus 4.5, FSU plus 2. You've got Iowa minus 12.5 and Wisconsin minus 9. Where are you going for your third pick? Because I jotted 2 down, and basically, if you grab my first one, I've got a second one to go.
I don't think you'll grab my first one. We were hating on this team a little bit early, but Alabama, I think, honestly, now here's the caveat. I see 20.5 right now. If that spread goes to 21.5, you might have to call me back. But at 20.5, I think Alabama, this is the game they show on CBS at 3:30. They'll boat race Arkansas, who to me isn't very good, especially on the road. They have a 7-3 record, but they're 3-3 in the SEC. So to me, this is the Alabama game where they win by about 4 touchdowns. And I'm going to take them minus 20.5.
So you did take my pick, but I was going to go the other way.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You were on the opposite.
I was going to take the Razorbacks, but I'll leave it alone because it makes no sense for us to have 2 picks on the same game. I'll go ahead and take the Vols team total. The team total is 45. I think they get to that. I think they get it past it. I think the Vols are going to score at will. It is a night game against South Alabama. They should be able to name their score. And I think 45, considering how fast Tennessee plays, I think they'll get to that team total. I don't think that's going to be an issue. So I'll take the Vols and the team total at 45. My reasoning for thinking that Arkansas, and I haven't been that impressed with Arkansas, but I haven't been that impressed with Alabama. I do think Alabama kids could get caught looking ahead to the Iron Bowl, which is next weekend. And though Auburn is not this big stalwart, that's always a game that's going to be on their radar. So I'm thinking that Arkansas could go in and just not, I'm not saying they're going to beat them, right, but give them a scare. And on my board, you can get Arkansas at 21. But I also see your argument. I can see Alabama going there and putting the foot on the gas. And if the Arkansas team that showed up against Georgia shows up, they have no chance of covering the spread. That Arkansas team was absolutely horrendous. But Arkansas has played pretty good football all year long. I'd be leery, probably, to be honest, of taking it either way, to be honest with you.
Probably a good stay-away game.
I do think Arkansas can get over. So the 17.5 is the team total for Arkansas to score. I do think they can get to that because this Alabama defense is not the shutdown defense that it's been in the past. And to keep a team under 17 points in college football means you have to play a really good game. I mean, a really good game. It has to be lights out, but you can't have anything stupid happen. You can't have a turnover on your side of the field. You can't have a broken defensive play. You have to play a really good game, and them scoreboard watching could be an issue. All right. So let's move on to the National Football League. Real quick before we do that, do want to talk about this Patriots real quick. They've won 6 of 7 in a dominating fashion last night. I thought even with the Patterson not playing, I thought Atlanta would score a few points.
So did I.
Now, I put them in a teaser, and I obviously cleared the first part of the teaser because I took the Patriots to on a 6-point teaser to just get over the hump and just get the W eventually. And I put them all on a second part of a teaser, the first part of a teaser. And I just got to get the second part to come through. But I believe that this team, and I predicted at the beginning of the year, and I really questioned myself at the end of September. I think this team is going to win the AFC East. They still have 2 more games against Buffalo. So obviously a home and a home. In fact, one of them is a Monday Night Football game on December 6th.
Yep, in 2 weeks here.
And Tones and I are going to be bringing that game to y'all.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, we were originally supposed to be bringing the Tampa Bay game this Monday, but he had a scheduling issue. So we're going to bring the Monday night game to you, Patriots versus Bills. That should be a hell of a ball game. Right now, we are set to bring you that Monday night game, and we're going to bring you the Thursday night, December 23rd game, which is only available on NFL Network. So if you don't have NFL Network, we will have it here. And that's the Titans versus the 49ers, which should be a fun game.
I mean, so far to this point, I listened to the Steelers Bears, I believe it was. That was a lot of fun between you two. Obviously Tones' first time, kudos there, and you, the veteran, bringing him along. So I had a fun time listening to that. That was good stuff.
Well, thank you. We're going to do more and more of these. So any of the armchairs that want to do this, I enjoy it thoroughly. We'll figure it out as the season goes along, football, and I'm not going to try to do hockey or basketball. It's too difficult,
too much, too fast paced.
You have to know too much about those teams to be able to bring it in. And pretty much what happens, because I did play-by-play basketball in college years ago. The play-by-play guy just ends up talking the entire time, and the color guy has to be able to know how to jump in, and it's very difficult. I've never done hockey, obviously. I wouldn't even know how to begin to do play-by-play hockey. But with the basketball, it's just because the ball's constantly moving, you're constantly trying to keep up with it, unless you did it like a true television type of broadcast where you just kind of let it breathe. Right. Anyways, I have no desire to do basketball games or hockey games, so we're going to stick with baseball and football. So we will be doing some football games down the stretch. And what will be interesting is we're getting the USFL's coming this spring. So we might even dive into that depending on where it's available.
Let's go.
Yeah. I still haven't heard an official announcement of what cities are getting those teams. So I feel like that announcement should have been made by now. I would a few months away from playing, and I don't even know who the hell's got a team.
That's the type of thing I would like to jump on right there, those kind of low-key things. So I'll definitely be in talks with you on that. But I wanted to get back to you real quick. You're talking about New England in 7-4. Here's their next 4 games where we'll really find out about them. Next week versus Tennessee. That's going to be a huge game. At Buffalo, as you alluded to on Monday Night Football with you and Tones announcing. That's in a couple of weeks. Then they get a bye week, and then they go to Indianapolis and home against Buffalo. So they play Buffalo 2 times in a 4-game span, and then they play Tennessee and Indy. So we're going to find out a lot about New England in a month. I think they'll pretty much be successful, but I do agree with you. They could easily overtake Buffalo.
I'm finding it right here, and they're saying there's going to be 8 teams playing in a 10-game schedule.
That's fun.
But I'm looking to see what teams.
And they don't say it.
They're not saying it.
Oh, that's never a good sign.
Yeah, so I don't know. All they have is who's a part of it. So, who's running it.
Right.
So I guess we'll just keep an eye on it. It is supposed to start this spring. And, it's saying each game will be played in one location? Is that right?
What?
Much like the Spring League, which I have no idea what that is. Each game will be played in one location. Protective Stadium, home of the UAB Trailblazers, is rumored to be the location for the 2022 season. That kind of sucks.
Why? I mean, you're trying to get more people attracted. Why are you just going to stick it in one place?
Yeah, because it's not going to feel like your team. I don't care.
That's not a home game feel.
Right. Let's say you put a game in Chicago and you put a team in Jacksonville and they're playing each other. I'm not going to feel like that's my team because all you did was slap a logo on there. This is a disaster.
They can't even get things off the ground. Sheesh.
That's very disappointing because I was looking forward to the USFL. I'm a big the original USFL, big USFL fan. That sucks. All right. So they screwed that up. Wow. That is dumb.
It's like, I want to know their thinking behind that. I would love to be in that room where they logically. I mean, it just has to be maybe a cheaper, easier way.
So what? As opposed to calling the team the New York or Chicago, whatever, you're probably just going to put like a corporate logo on there. It'll be the Coca-Cola Knights, the Pepsi Warriors. I think it'll be something like that. Because what's the point? You can't assign a team a city if they're not playing their home games there.
Right. So yeah, you're gonna have all the same people. Yeah, that's not cool. You gotta come on, man. We gotta have home field advantages.
Fox is backing the league, so it's gonna be on television. That sounds like it's gonna be a disaster. All right, let's move on. That is disappointing. I was really looking forward to that. Looking at some of the before we hit the NFL lines really quick, some of the injury updates that we are getting, COVID related issues, all that stuff. So you've got, obviously everyone's keeping an eye on Aaron Rodgers and his toe. He expects to play. Looks like Kamara is going to be back this week. You're going to have, let me see if I can find some of the others.
Kamara's huge having them, but go ahead.
Dude, what's up with Antonio Brown coming up with a fake Vax card? What are you doing, son?
Hey, I already got in trouble with Tones once today, so I shouldn't comment on that. But no, in all reality, that situation, I mean, it is just an index card, but by God, if it came out to be true,
he is an absolute clown. And so dumb on so many levels. I think the Buccaneers or the Patriots South. I think the Patriots South should really think about just getting rid of this clown. That's it. That's just another distraction. You've got a good wide receiving core as it is. You don't necessarily need Antonio Brown.
Well, and their issue right now is him and Scotty Miller. They're two slot guys. Scotty Miller's been hurt. He's been hurt, and now he has his problem. So they've been having a lot of issues at their slot receiver position as they signed Rashad Perryman, which is never a thing you always want to do. So there's some slot issues there, and that's a troubling report.
Right, but when they get Gronk back.
Correct, which I think should be – is it this week maybe? I think he's practicing.
There's a possibility of this week that they get the benefit of the game not being till Monday, so we'll see what happens with that. But this is an absolute disaster. I mean, you can't keep having Antonio Brown in the middle of these ridiculous things that happen, and he's out there trying to buy a phony Vax card. What a thumb.
The only person having a worse week than him is Zach Stacy.
Well, what about Ruggs?
Oh, wow. I said week. I guess, you could say it.
Well, did you see what he did this week? He didn't get he was supposed to take an alcohol test.
Oh, don't tell me he missed
and he didn't show up for it.
Oh, jeez. You gone. I mean, come on now.
He's ordered to appear in court now after missing the alcohol test, which is, it's usually an alcohol and drug test, but they're calling alcohol test. I'm pretty sure it's alcohol and drug test. This is a jerk that killed a woman.
Yep.
And her dog.
Yep.
And what was not originally reported that came out later, evidently Ruggs' girlfriend was in the passenger seat.
Correct.
So luckily he didn't kill her too.
Yeah. Isn't that funny how it always works out? The driver never goes.
This puke is on home arrest. And I don't want to hear about anyone's privilege. There's no way that guy. There's no way that if it wasn't for his money. See, people always try to sell you that privilege has anything to do with race, religion, et cetera, et cetera. It has to do with money. It's always money.
Yep.
There's no way if that is you or that is me in that same situation that we're sitting at home with an ankle bracelet being asked to pee in a cup.
Oh, no chance. No chance. We'd already be behind bars.
We're in a 10-by-6.
Yeah.
And they're not giving us an alcohol test. You know why? They don't have to, because unless we're mashing grapes behind the toilet, we're not getting drunk.
It bothered me so much when there was people who saying, you got to feel bad for this man. You got to see what he's going through. You took a life.
I feel bad for.
Life.
Look,
you're out.
The whole thing's a tragedy. Don't get me wrong on that, but I feel bad for the girl who lost her life, the dog that lost her life. That had nothing.
Yes.
That was not able to make this decision for them. It's bad enough that you drive impaired, and look, most of us have done it, so I can't really judge someone on that. But to go 156 miles an hour, period, and go 156 miles an hour while you're impaired, there's something wrong. There's something not connecting, my friend.
You're signing yourself up for a disaster when you do that.
I would just love to know why he's allowed to be sitting there at home on home arrest when he should be in a jail cell.
It's blasphemy. It's ridiculous. I guess that's 2021 for you.
I guess so. That's what happens, man. I don't know. All right. So let's go ahead and get into our picks. Yep. Curious to see where you're going with your NFL picks. I'll go ahead and give you the board first. Where does your first pick? By the way, if you are looking for a good teaser this weekend, the one that I like the most, I talked about it earlier this week. I like San Francisco -6. You tease that down, it becomes a pick 'em. Okay. And you add to that, Dallas is getting 2.5. So you tease Dallas up to 8.5, and the 49ers just have to win in Jacksonville. I like that one a lot. And I hate taking West Coast, East Coast. And I know they played on a Monday night, so it's really set up for the Jaguars to upset the 49ers. But, man, they looked good the other night. And the Jaguars are terrible. And I'm not saying that they're going to cover the spread. That's what I'm saying. I like it as a tease. So where are you going first?
Yeah, I'm going to take I'm going to go to Chicago first, where I like Baltimore. I know Lamar Jackson has that practice. So if some reason he could not play, which I have not seen anything on where he won't, I just know he's been missing practice lately. I'm taking Baltimore -4.5. The Bears off of bye week, they're still a befuddled team led by Matt Nagy. My friends won't like hearing it, but Khalil Mack's still not fully healthy. They just signed Bruce Irvin, which he's over the hill, so that's never a good thing. I think Ravens, they play off that Thursday night loss. They get their things back together, and giving up 4.5. I'm not saying it'll be a blowout by Baltimore, but I think they can cover that spread, and Lamar Jackson will find a groove in Chicago.
The last word that I saw on Lamar Jackson was he is ill, but it's not COVID. This guy's always sick. You talk about someone who needs to get a freaking vax shot and a flu shot. Lamar Jackson is always sick.
Always.
His immune system is trash. He should really look at getting some of these shots. I know he's against it, but man, if there's ever a poster child for one, but
could you imagine if he got COVID right before a playoff game or something like that? I mean,
he's already had it twice,
right? Like,
and they try to tell you that if you've had it once, there's a very good chance you won't get it again. He's already had it twice. He probably will get it a third time.
That's what I'm saying.
His immune system is garbage. I don't know why. He's a phenomenal athlete, but man, something's missing there. All right. So you're going to go with Baltimore.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and take the Eagles -2 at home. They're giving up 2 at home against the Saints. The Saints are a tough team, but it's in Philly. 2's not a very big spread to cover, and I like Philly to go ahead and roll that.
I like that one as well, actually.
What's your next one?
My next one is, I haven't chosen my team in a while because my rule of thumb is unless you're 500, you don't deserve respect, and the Colts did not. But they're back to 5-5. They're getting 7 points on the road in Buffalo, where last year they could have easily won that playoff game. I know it's a new season, but like the Colts have struggled a little bit, so has Buffalo. Colts have now won 4 out of 5. Heading into this matchup are at their healthiest. Buffalo just lost their right tackle to a COVID situation. And their offensive line usually has issues. So if we can get to the quarterback, I'm going to take that 7 points touchdown for sure and take Indianapolis.
I knew that pick was coming.
Hey, it's been a while. I haven't picked them in a while.
So there's a lot of games with small lines, and then there's a lot of games with big lines this weekend. There's no overrun. I brought it up a second ago. I'll go ahead and roll with it. I like the Cowboys to win in Kansas City. They're getting 2.5 points. I think there's a very good chance that they're going to hit that. What the number that I really like, though, and this is the one that I'm sticking with, is Dallas team total is 27 points, and I think they will. I think they will scorch that number. I think if regardless, Dallas is going to score, and Kansas City is going to have to try to keep up with them. The over/under is 56.5. That's very enticing as well. But Kansas City has laid some duds out there, so I'm not willing to take the over/under total. I'm willing to take the Dallas team total. I think they get 4 touchdowns on the board.
I could easily see that. I mean, the Chiefs defense, yeah.
I do like that Dallas plus 2.5, but the 27, I'm a little surprised. And if you like that number, I think people need to jump on it now, because I think that number is going to go towards more a pick 'em at kickoff. I think more.
Yeah, and then the points won't matter, so you might as well.
I think more and more people are going to jump on Dallas, and that line is going to go down. So if you like that game, you need to jump on it early, because it's only going to go towards Kansas City. There's going to be a lot of money coming in on Dallas. It's going to drop that line to make it almost a pick 'em. What is your number 3 pick?
My number 3 pick, and boy, I was going back and forth on this game all week, but I have a good feel today. Minnesota at home. I know Green Bay's 8-2. I know Aaron Rodgers is back, and they're only giving up 1 point on the road. But Minnesota has not had a lot of success this year in close games. They did just beat the Chargers. I think they come home in a divisional game, which is always tough. I think they do squeak this one out against Green Bay. I'm going to take the slight upset here, as I thought the spread would probably be a little higher, but not being in Minnesota in a division game. But I'm going to take Minnesota +1 home against the Green Bay Packers.
All right. So I think that's going to leave me with there's a couple of games I'm looking at here, and a couple of those spreads are just a little too rich for my blood. So I think I'm just going to go with the game that I'm basically just looking to get the W. I'm not worried about the point spread itself. I'm going to take the Bengals -1.
I like that.
They're at the Raiders. Man, the Raiders really disappointed me last week. I thought they were going to go out there and show that who they are, and this division is theirs and all that, and they crapped the bed.
And usually they're successful against Kansas City.
They look terrible.
They were, yeah, that was ugly.
Granted, that fumble by Jackson was pathetic, and it really was a if anyone was watching that game, it was an absolute killer, because they were about to make it a really close game, and he fumbled the ball away, and essentially Kansas City scores, and then they get another score, and the game's over. But I'm suspecting there's a bit of a hangover, and I think the Raiders are going to have a hard time slowing down Jamar Chase and Burrow and company. So I'm going to take the Bengals. Every time I see that matchup, though, when I think of Cincinnati versus the Raiders, the first thing that pops into my head is that terrible Bo Jackson injury that happened back in the early 90s, where they were playing the Bengals. I believe it was a playoff game, and Bo Jackson's hip came out of socket, and the rest is history. That pretty much ended Bo Jackson's football career. Well, it did end his football career, and he tried to play baseball afterwards, and he was just never the same. All right, let's go ahead and go to try to end this show here, as we are coming up on time. And where's the little turn back time music for us? Here we go.
Feel good.
On this date in 1939, Well-wishers jam the streets in the city by the bay as Joe DiMaggio marries actress Dorothy Arnold. No, it wasn't the Marilyn Monroe. This guy was obsessed with marrying actresses. Dorothy Arnold at the St. Peter and Paul Church in San Francisco. The Yankees outfielder met his future bride on the set of Manhattan Merry-Go-Round, a movie in which he played a minor role. This was at the height of his career. That was in 1939. Also, on this date, 1986, Mike Schmidt joins Roy Campanella, and Stan Musial is becoming the third player in National League history to win the MVP 3 times. The Philly third baseman also won the prestigious award in 80 and 81. Birthdays.
It's your birthday today. What does that mean?
83 years old, Ted Turner, former owner of the Atlanta Braves, former owner of CNN. I don't know what the hell he owns now, if he owns anything. Happy birthday to him. Also, happy birthday. We give him a lot of grief on the show here, but we do enjoy his content. From Chicago, Illinois, 63 years young, Michael Wilbon.
Ooh.
I actually thought he was older than that. Honest engine.
Sometimes his comments make it seem that way.
Yeah, I was thinking that he was closer to late 60s, but he's only 63. So happy birthday to him. Also, anyone remember Gail Devers? She won Olympic gold in 92 and 96. I remember her like it was yesterday. I can't believe that she is 55 years old. Is that right? 55? Yeah, she's 55. And we'll throw one more out at you. Carrie Strug. Everyone remembers Carrie Strug, right? Do you remember Carrie Strug?
I do not.
She is the famous Olympic athlete, gymnast. You'll see the video of her being carried off after injury and winning Olympic, where her coach is carrying her off after she had hurt her leg. She is 44 today from Tucson, Arizona. What is your walk-off for the day, sir?
My walk-off today is I'm going to sit back and watch the best QB in the NFL. Cam Newton's back. I'm back. I'm going to watch him this weekend, beat up on that Washington defense, and hopefully they go on a wild card run. But no, in all seriousness, college football-wise, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty here. We got, it doesn't seem like the best slate on paper, but you got to watch those teams like Ohio State, Oregon, Alabama, or Cincinnati. Any of those teams fall so do their playoff hopes. So, again, it's a cold weekend in Chicago. I'll be bundling and watching a lot of football.
All right, my walk-off for the day is a lot of football going on, obviously. I'm going to be locked into the Florida State Boston College game tomorrow morning. We will be here with you tomorrow morning for the Dixie Football Nation. Tony might be popping in. He's going to try to make an appearance, but we will have Tones. We will have Bobby, and then we'll see Joey and company on Sunday for the NFL. It's getting to the nitty gritty. Once you get, I always say there's 3 seasons. There's the beginning of the season. There's post Thanksgiving season. So once you get to so we're almost at that. Once you hit the Thanksgiving weekend, I feel like that begins the second season, and then the third season is obviously the playoffs. All right, brother. We will see you Sunday. Have a great a great Friday. Excuse me. And we will see everyone tomorrow morning.
Have a good one, brother. See you Sunday.
Friday, working stiffs. Everybody.
4, 3, 2, 1. Happy weekend! Goodbye, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks for listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on these CBS Sports affiliates and catching the show on YouTube Live. We're here weekdays, Find Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube Live today. Please subscribe and share and take us everywhere you go. The Armchair Quarterbacks, your first choice for Southern sports talk, live from the First Coast.
Gonna get another cigarette, please.